Howdy. I'm ExactChase, and among my friend group, I'm known as the resident achievement whore and that fucker that likes old things. So, I've decided to combine those two things to go back in time to get 100% in every game on the Xbox 360. Of course, there's some achievements I just straight up will never be able to get due to server closures. For this reason, sports games are mostly off the list. I'm also excluding games that require me to own anything other than the Kinect, unless I feel like it. Anyway, to kick off this incredibly lengthy series, I've decided to start with one of the Xbox 360's launch titles, Gun. Now, Gun isn't exactly a title that comes up in the conversation of best games of all time, but mention it to someone who was playing games at that time and they'll say, Gun is an awesome game. And with 8s and 9s across the board, it's a wonder this game never got a sequel. With no yearly release to remind the collective consciousness of this game's existence, we all completely forgot about it. Which is a shame, because Gun is an awesome game, offering an open world that's not so big you'll be wandering for hours, but not so small that it feels linear. Yes, you do spend a lot of time going to and from the same locations, and the lack of a custom waypoint system is kind of a pain in the ass, but I enjoy that I didn't have to spend 15 minutes just to get to the next mission. The game also offers plenty in the way of side quests, something you'll need to do all of in order to get all of the achievements. These kinds of achievements usually make me groan and roll my eyes, but I was already halfway done with them after about 3 hours, and heavily enjoying what I was doing aside from a few short exceptions. The side quest offers are bounties, finding 12 people and either subduing or killing them. Subduing will get you more money than killing them, but killing them's easier. Hunting 6 specific creatures on the map. Rescue missions, retrieving an item from a bandit, or something of that sort. Poker, pretty self-explanatory. Keeper of the Peace, which is just enforcing the law in Dodge City. Ranch hand missions, which mainly consist of herding cattle and stuff like that. And Pony Express, which are 10 timed delivery service missions. And quite possibly the most annoying side quest in the game. Not necessarily because it's not fun, but because it's timed, and it doesn't exactly give you a whole lot of leniency in regards to how much time you have to get there. Even with completely hauling ass across the map, I still barely made it most of the time and had to dive off of my horse to talk to the person before the time ran out. This game also exists in a time where achievements were brand new and developers didn't really know how to make balanced lists yet, so most games from this era exist on either the really easy or fucking impossible ends of the spectrum, with very few in between. Gun is on the lesser end of the spectrum, being a pretty easy to complete game, and it didn't require me to sink in too much time, only taking a few days of playing for a couple hours after work, and I'd completed it and gotten my 1,000 gamer score. The game was solid outside of the achievement hunter aspect. Yeah, the achievements were easy and quick to unlock, outside of a few. But even if that weren't the case, Gun offers an awesome story, great gameplay, and an open world big enough to roam around, but not so big as to be annoying. If you looked at this game today, you'd probably say this is just a lesser Red Dead, which, yeah, it does have less in the way of immersion than Red Dead does, but it also does Deadeye better. And has a pretty good story, too, but you have to remember that this came out on the original Xbox first, and it's therefore limited by the technology of its time. So it doesn't look great visually, nor is the open world the same size as Red Dead's, but it is a great game nonetheless, and probably the best launch title for the 360. The game's story follows an Apache raised by a former Confederate soldier who goes on a revenge quest after his adoptive father is killed. It involves a lost city of gold in there as well, a lot of betrayals, twists, and turns. It's really good. Now, I mentioned some not-so-easy achievements earlier, and these are just the difficulty-based ones. You have to complete the game 4 times in total, but you don't have to. You can always cheat. There's a cheat in this game that lets you access a level select, and as long as you defeat the final boss on the specific difficulties, you'll get their achievements, which is still somewhat difficult on the harder difficulties, but it's still doable. And a lot quicker than playing the game 4 times. A lot of the time, that's how these games lose me. They require me to play through multiple times on the different difficulties, and I'll be honest, I don't always have the attention span to play through a game more than once, especially not back to back to back to back to back. So I cheated. Sue me. Overall, this is a really solid game with an awesome story that I really recommend you check out. Not just for the easy gamer score, but for the game itself. Even if you don't get 100%, you'll be glad you spent the $5 your local retro game store is selling this game for. It's more than worth that price of entry. It's not backwards compatible, however, so if you want to play it, you gotta bust out the 360, which isn't a problem for me, obviously, but I know some people who are revolted by the idea of hopping on an older console to play older games, unless it's the PS2. Anyway, that was just the first game on my hopefully lengthy journey to get a complete 360. Next week, Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. What? I was gonna do Gears of War, but, fucking multiplayer achievements killed that dream. Still trying. So you might get a video, but don't hold your breath.